Right now at noon, Bright Futures Joplin receives a donation that they're thankful for.
And the summer weather like continues into the weekend. I'll let you know when we can expect some cooler weather in your forecast.
And how a Carthage first grader is making sure no one gets left out at recess.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The Miami Police Department made an arrest after searching for a fugitive with a drone. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Amber Jenkins. U.S. Marshals requested assistance from the Miami Police Department to help find Lucan Logan, who had a warrant out of Iowa County for a drive-by shooting that took place at the end of August. Miami's Police Department District 13 Task Force executed a search warrant today in Wyandotte. Lucan Logan was taken into custody along with 2 others. Drivers along southbound Range Line Road will experience a lane closure just south of 7th Street today. The lane closure will allow city workers to make emergency sewer repairs. Southbound travelers will need to merge into the single open lane as they near this closure. Missouri Department of Transportation alerted Joplin's Public Works Department to a sewer manhole issue in the area. The work is expected to be completed by the end of the day. Grant money flows into a Joplin nonprofit organization. The American Water Charitable Foundation and Missouri American Water presented a check for $5,000 to Bright Futures Joplin. The money will allow Bright Futures Joplin to provide weekend food, clothing, and school supplies to Joplin students with difficult economic challenges.
Very far, especially with buying food for our snack packs and for helping us fill immediate student needs like clothing, coats, shoes. We rely entirely on our community support, so this is huge.
State strategic impact grants are a part of AWCF's Keep Communities Flowing grant program, focused on the 3 pillars of giving: water, people, and communities. A philanthropic group awards more than $18,000 to 23 nonprofit organizations in Crawford County. The Future Fund Giving Circle is comprised of community members from Crawford County who pool their resources to make a difference. Since its inception in 2006, the Future Fund Giving Circle has awarded more than $170,000 in grants. To see the full list of nonprofits, you can check out on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com.
Another warm day across the 4 states with lots of sunshine, hardly a cloud in the sky anywhere across the central United States, and it's going to stay that way for several days. Also, we're dealing with some allergy issues, around 5.9 today, which is moderate. Same thing tomorrow with most of that ragweed, chenopod, and sagebrush. And if you're going to be outside today, the UV index is going to be on the high side, 6 on the scale, which is about 30 minutes before you start to burn. So make sure that you're going to be protected if you're going to be out longer than that. And over the weekend, we're going to see lots of heat. And so stay hydrated, take frequent breaks, limit your strenuous outdoor activities, and be sure to check on the elderly as well as the pets, especially those outside. This afternoon, we're going to see temperatures dropping through the 80s into the 70s, all the way down to about 65 degrees tonight. And looking down the lane, it's going to be a toasty Thursday with some sunny weather for this weekend with above normal temperatures, but we do have some storms and cooler weather on the way for next week, and I'll detail all that coming up in weather in just a little bit.
To be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. It can be pretty hard for some kids to make friends, but one first grader in Carthage wanted to make sure no one was left out. So Bo Whitehead suggested adding a buddy bench to the playground. It's where lonely students can sit, signaling to other students that they need a friend. Bo said it will make going to school more enjoyable for everyone. His dad was only too happy to help out.
He thought that was a great idea. The class had talked about it, and so it was something that he thought would be really cool, something that they could have. And then they talked to Dr. Northup about it, and the more that he kind of talked about it, the more the wheels in my mind started turning, and I knew that we had a couple of these benches, so if it was something that we could make happen, we're always more than happy to be able to do that.
The bench was made at Carthage Technical Center, where Bo's dad works. Rise Elementary School in Neosho, Missouri found a creative strategy to overcome the lack of green space and playground area around this new building. School buses take students about 2 miles up the road to a scenic park. Instead of having 2 recesses per day like many local schools, kids at Rise Elementary have one 30-minute long recess. The 230 students go to the park divided by grade levels. The kids can enjoy the playground area and other activities, all with the supervision of their teachers.
Kids love it. I've actually wondered and teased some of the teachers that they may not want to come to our own playground once we have it, because that park is so beautiful. It's shady, it's got lots of trees, it's a beautiful setting.
We've really incorporated setting down what our guidelines are, where they can and cannot go. We've talked about rules, safety, and procedures over the first 2 to 3 weeks of school.
The school is working with the district to find a solution and get a green space near the school. Folks in Pineville yesterday went to church for some live music. It's a part of Jesse James Days, which kicked off yesterday. The First Baptist Church hosted a gospel night. There was also vendors, a bounce house, a mechanical bull, and frisbee throws.
So Jesse James Day celebrates the 1939 movie Jesse James that was filmed right here in Pineville. A lot of the residents were actually extras. A lot of McDonald County residents were in the movie. It was shot right here in town. So we like to come together, celebrate that, celebrate the success that the movie had, and give back to the community.
The fun continues through Saturday. Other events include a pageant, a softball tournament, a parade, and a poker run. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in your first 7 minutes. Up next on the KOAM at noon, a government shutdown could be on the horizon. We'll have the details. And later, we're making cowboy brisket in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. If Congress can't find a path forward together. Saturday's the deadline, but Republicans on Capitol Hill remain worlds apart on key issues. CBS' Jared Hill has more on Speaker McCarthy's last-ditch effort to lessen the impact of a shutdown that's looking increasingly more likely.
As Congress races to avoid catastrophe, President Biden with a message to lawmakers.
Fund the government.
With a shutdown just 3 days away, the Senate is working on a continuing resolution to fund the government for the next 6 weeks at current spending levels.
We're going to continue to try to reach an agreement, pass it on a bipartisan basis.
But with additional dollars for Ukraine and U.S. disaster relief, it's a non-starter for House Republicans. Speaker Kevin McCarthy pushing for a short-term bill of his own.
We will pass a continuing resolution, bring that rule up hopefully on Friday.
He's promising Republican priorities like deep spending cuts and tougher border policies to get hardline GOP holdouts on board. But some say they'll only vote for a long-term budget, not a short-term extension.
I'm a no and will remain a no. My advice is buckle up, there's turbulence ahead.
The Biden administration is warning how a shutdown would impact Americans, closing parks, ending government services for mothers, pausing paychecks.
Any House Republican comfortable with shutting down the government should explain themselves directly to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines whose paychecks will stop after Saturday.
While the deadline creeps closer, President Biden says he doesn't think a shutdown is inevitable. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Shutdown concerns are already being felt outside of Washington. In Georgia, plans to celebrate the 99th birthday of President Jimmy Carter at his presidential library and museum has already been moved from Sunday to Saturday ahead of the possible shutdown. The Sphere is Sphere Entertainment Company's $2.3 billion, 17,000-seat live entertainment venue that was built just east of the Vatican Expo. It's the largest sphere-shaped building in the world, standing 366 feet tall and 516 feet wide at the widest point. The eye-dropping ball covered in 1.2 million LED bulbs where the images are constantly in motion and it's always changing. That lets the Sphere function as the world's largest round billboard, and it's already been leased for that purpose. There's plans for 25 concerts for the debut featuring U2. Still to come on KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
No need to spend all day in the kitchen when one appliance can get you in and out of there in no time. If you think you know what it is, now is a good time to dig it out.
Lots of sunshine for the area, including the weekend and also summer-like temperatures. I'll let you know what it looks like specifically when we come back right after this. The calendar says it's fall, but the weather says otherwise. It's been more summer-like the last few days, and it's going to continue right on through the weekend. Right now in Seneca, Missouri, at Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, bright blue skies and lots of sunshine. That's going to allow temperatures to rise into the upper 80s and lower 90s. Right now in Joplin, we're looking at fair skies, 85 degrees with a southwest wind at 10. Feels like 86 because the dew point's at 64, giving us about half saturated at 49% and the visibility at 10 miles. Radar's all clear, and we're not expecting any precipitation anywhere in the area for the next several days. And we've been dealing with a lot of rain last week, which helped on the drought situation. You can see some improvement in southwestern Missouri and northwestern Arkansas, but the drought still holds on pretty tightly for Chautauqua, Elk, and parts of Montgomery counties. Unfortunately, no rainfall is expected for the next 36 hours to help with the drought situation. Instead, we're going to see very warm temperatures, and we're already there. We're seeing readings generally in the low to mid 80s right now. 84 in Parsons, 84 in Iola, 88 already in Sedan. They're definitely going to get into the 90s today out towards the west. Meanwhile, it's a little bit cooler over in Monette and Cassville, both at 82 degrees. Dew points are generally in the 50s right now, so we have lots of dry air in place. But as we go through the weekend, the dew points are going to increase just a little bit as we have south winds. And when you add the dew point and the temperature together, you're going to start to feel like it's in the 90s for a large part of southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma. And then as we go into Saturday, pretty lot of heat across the area in southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, with feeling like in the lower 90s across the area. And it's mainly because this ridge of high pressure is going to be building in. It's an omega block, which looks like the Greek letter omega, with a trough on the west coast and a trough on the east coast. And by the time we move into Tuesday, this storm system out to the west will start to dig across the southern Rockies and then pull out into the plains on Wednesday. That's when the chances of rain starts to increase. But until then, it's going to be pretty hot and dry. In fact, this afternoon, we're going to see highs in the upper 80s and lower 90s, especially out towards the west. And then tonight, we're going to see mostly fair skies with south winds continuing and lows generally in the 60s. And then as we head towards tomorrow afternoon, a few clouds passing by, but it's going to be mainly hot with highs in the upper 80s and lower 90s, as records this time of year are generally in the lower 90s. They're going to be close to that out towards the west in Eureka with 94. And then as we go into Saturday morning, we're going to see lows generally in the mid to upper 60s with increasing southwest winds, making it feel pretty toasty out there, especially on Saturday afternoon with a high of 90. We're going to be looking at hot conditions. And then as we go into Sunday, still very warm, 88. And then Monday and Tuesday, slightly cooler with increasing clouds, but still very warm. And then finally, some thunderstorms rolling in here on Wednesday afternoon and evening with a high of 79. Then we start getting back closer to normal on Thursday with a high of 78. And very nice and pleasant weather next weekend with highs only in the mid-70s and lows in the 50s. And beyond that, we're looking at a real cold snap coming up, but we have plenty of time to worry about that. Stick around because we're going to be back with more news and weather. Let's go back to Amber.
Well, cowboys know a thing or two about cows inside and out. That's why Howard's making cowboy brisket in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Just because you love meat so tender that it falls off the bone doesn't mean you need to spend all day in the kitchen. It does mean that you need to dig out your pressure cooker or Instant Pot. And for those of you who don't have either, let me tell you, you're missing out. Not only do they cook super quick, but today's versions of these are safer than ever. Here's a brisket that would take hours if we cooked it traditionally, but watch how fast it can be made using our pressure cooker. After rubbing it with a homemade spice blend, we place it in our pressure cooker on a trivet. That ensures the meat won't scorch while it cooks. Over that goes a sauce that we made by combining brown sugar, vinegar, water, ketchup, and liquid smoke. Now we top that with some sliced onions and place the lid on. After making sure the lid is locked, we set it to cook for about 50 minutes. Once it's fork tender, we'll take it out. And since the pan drippings will be loaded with flavor, we'll thicken them up with a bit of cornstarch. Then we carve this across the grain, spoon on the flavor pack sauce, and get ready for some good eating. Maybe pile some on a crusty roll so you can dig in without picking up a fork. To get the recipe for our cowboy brisket, all you need to do is visit our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a cowboy quick way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at the 4-state market prices.
We're looking at very hot conditions as we go towards the weekend with highs in the upper 80s and lower 90s. And it's going to stay that way all the way until early next week when we have a chance of showers and thunderstorms on Wednesday, bringing us back closer to normal with highs only in the 70s and lows in the 50s. And the good news is beyond that, we have some much cooler weather possible. So that's something to look forward to.
I'm
Sounds
excited
good.
for fall. I got some cute sweaters to wear, so.
Very good, yeah.
What's going on at the 5?
Well, a lot at 5. For starters, the House Oversight Committee is holding its first impeachment inquiry hearing into President Biden today. The alleged misconduct centers around the president's son, Hunter Biden, and his overseas business dealings. Plus, public safety training at one of the Joplin School District's closed elementary, and we're going to meet the new leader of the Carl Junction School District. Hope you join us for those stories. A lot more, of course. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
And that's the news for now. Thank you for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. Have a great rest of your day, 4 States.